And welcome back here to the Shuffle Squad. It's PJ here with some awesome guests on this meta forecast. We have not one event coming up this weekend, but we actually have 4 events this season on one weekend, which is kind of wild to me. There are 2 special events. There's a Thailand championship and there's a Stockholm regionals all in the same weekend, which is absolutely insane. If you love playing Pokemon, this is the weekend for you, I guess, if you live anywhere outside of North America. But if you do want to get some Pokemon games in, you're definitely going to want to stick around and listen to this meta forecast because a lot has changed coming out of Indie regionals from last weekend. So we're going to talk about all that. I have 2 awesome guests joining me here for this meta forecast. We're going to kick things off here and talk to James. You might know James by a different name, but why don't you go ahead and let the people know who you are?
Hi, I'm James, probably better known on Limitless YouTube as AllOutBlitzle. I play a lot of Control. I make dumb decks. I date Toot Orlando, so I'm not a total scrub. Yeah.
Awesome. And we also have the lovely King Dre Clout with us here. Dre, why don't you let the people know who you are?
Yo, what's up, everybody? King Dre Clout, Dreoxys, Dre, every day's Dre Day, all that. Shout out Candace. You guys know the memes go on forever at this point. My lore is just like, I've only been around a year and a half, and the lore is so deep, you would think I'd been here for years. 7-time day 2s, a top 32, top 16, still haven't made top 8, womp womp, but no scrub either, I guess.
We'll get you there. So all of the opinions are very valuable here because we are going to talk a lot about Pokemon TCG. So again, we're going to run down the meta here, and the biggest change I think that we'll talk about first going into these events here, because we know that people are going to see what happened in Indie, and just roll with it. You know, lots has moved around the Charizard meta. We have lots to talk about, and the first thing is Dialga VSTAR. We're going to start it off there. It won the event. We're going to have to talk about it. Dialga, the beast, out of nowhere, timeless GXing everybody and getting to where it needs to be. So, Dre, you and I kind of went back and forth with, obviously, the group, you a little bit more with the group, testing Dialga. What are your thoughts on Hedrick's list, it winning the event, and let's elaborate on that together here.
Yeah, well, Hedrick's list is definitely super consistent. That's the reason why it definitely saw success. I mean, it was a good meta to play it in. As long as you know the match, like your matchups, the deck is pretty good. The one thing that I did not like when we were testing it is, like, at first, when we didn't know the deck too well, we were kind of getting sauced by one of our other members that knew the deck, that was first introducing it as the play. But then once we figured it out, like, we're like, well, this actually does have a bad Charizard matchup if you just chill out and heat tackle. Like, you don't have to Pidgeot Candyzard turn 2 against the deck. You can literally just chill out, get your board established, and heat tackle, draw cards, Arvin, heat tackle. And I literally, in one game, I think I heat tackled 4 times into a Dialga that eventually became a V-Star. I KO'd it, and then I Candyzarded Iono'd in one.
Yep.
So I think it was very under. It was like nobody really knew how to play against it. It's because nobody really took Dialga serious. And then, of course, Qian Pao being like, I think it's been the highest rate it's been played up to this point, too. And it, like, bullying the Charizards just opened the door for the Dialga players.
Yeah, and that's kind of the consensus. We knew going into this event that it was kind of Chen Pao's event. Obviously, the majority of the Shuffle didn't really play that. But, you know, James, you actually played against the Dialga. What were you seeing out in that field? What do you think made it so good? Is it because there was so much Chen Pao out there and people were kind of veering off of Zard, or just the consistency of the deck overall?
Well, I think Dialga's pretty good into everything that's not Zard or Chen Pao. Like, against everything else, it has a pretty good matchup into it. Just is not super great into the top 2 decks. It's also pretty fun and not that hard to play. So, like, it's pretty appealing. And I mean, it's just, I think it was a good meta call for this event. I'm not sure it'll be as good going forward. But it's like a pretty, I said on stream like a couple weeks ago, it was a good bad deck, and I still kind of stand by that take, but
it definitely seems that way for sure. It's one of the best worst decks in the
Yeah.
format, but you know, a good pilot behind something like that, if you love playing bad decks and maybe you've already got your invite locked up and all your CP accounted for and you want to play something like this, you could make a really deep run. And that's something I think that a lot of people will kind of consider. And as we saw, there were a little bit more decks like this out in the field we'll talk about a little bit later, but I think that Dialga just being unexpected, having that surprise factor is really why we saw Dialga do so well at this event. And it definitely seems like something we'll see pop up at Cups and Challenges throughout the weekend as well. I'm sure for people who are bored of playing Chien-Pao Charizard. So moving on to a deck that's not necessarily boring, and I particularly love, I know, James, you particularly love this style of deck, but Control. We saw the group of Grant, Azul, Caleb, plus extras take your list and you actually use it. And I know that you and I had been talking weeks before Indy about the 60 and kind of running through lines. You even put out a video on your channel. So Control, talk to me about Control, why you like it, why you think it was a great call, and maybe why it still is a good call.
I mean, I think it debatably has the best matchup spread in the game. Like, it takes the best Charizard, and like its bad matchups are just pretty jank decks.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just dodge those initially and get to top tables, get to day 2, you're kind of chilling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously it's a harder deck to play. Like, you're playing
Sure.
31 one-ofs, so that's all kinds of fun. But the deck just has so many options that you really can deal with just about everything. Like, what's funny is I played Grants in Orlando when he was on Tina and I was on Control, and then they ended up playing the deck in in Indy. So
Yeah.
I think it was a really good call for this event because Tina's stocks are like probably the lowest they've been since Ancient did so
Right.
good in was it Orlando, and as long as you have the Sandshrew technology, you beat Chien-Pao. So
Right.
yeah, you beat everything. The deck's broken.
You beat everything, and that is definitely true. There was a lot of lines that I didn't initially see, and I've been playing Pidgeot Control for some time now in the season between Snorlax and Pidgeot going back and forth. Now with the meta adapting, you know, we don't have to worry about straight up Lost Tina. We definitely don't have to worry about Path to the Peak anymore, which is great for the deck. So knowing that Cloth is a good part of the technology, Luxray is absolutely broken into the majority of decks because it's make your own area at home. And having that backup attacker, because you are an attacking deck at the end of the day, because you still have Charizard in there. Radiant Charizard can just come out and blast something. So there's all these different methods, lots of different win conditions. Dre, you and I have kind of talked a little bit about this deck. So would you pick up a 60 like this if you were a moderate to okay player, or would you wait to grind out some games before actually taking it to a major?
Yeah, I think on a deck like that, you definitely need to take some time with. Like, I consider myself like a little bit more of a developed player where I can, like, if I give myself a little bit of time, like a few days before the tournament, I can pick up the deck, learn the lines pretty quickly. And even I would not pick up like Control 3 days. I would want to give myself like a week or two to really pick up the line, because there are so many lines to win with the deck, and there are so many one-ofs that you need to know contingency plans in case, like, there's no Peonia. You're not, if you prize something, you need to be able to play around what you prized in those matchups. Like, it's very, very difficult. I wouldn't recommend like just picking it up like a couple days before the tournament. Plus, get some right. If you're gonna play it in LA, pick it up now. If you're gonna play it at NAIC, start doing your proxies. Pick it up now. Like, if that's what you plan to do. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend just picking it up a couple days for the tournament because it's not probably gonna go well.
Well, James said it best. There's 31 one-ofs, and if you prize the wrong one in a unfavorable matchup, it definitely hurts. So you have to know definitely how to pivot out of that hard spot. So it's definitely not for the faint of heart playing Control, but I still think that it is a phenomenal call if somebody does like a deck style like that and maybe is really good with those. I call them 7-head type of decks. You could definitely kind of roll through a big tournament. And I think even for cups and challenges, if you're well versed in the deck and you can play it quickly and you know when your opponent's playing a little bit too slow and you can kind of just easily or casually talk to them about playing a little bit faster, then maybe you could take down a cup or a challenge too with something like this. But it's definitely a good practice area, or you can even play online tournaments with it. So even better yet. So
There you go.
I will say that the deck I think is better going forward because Dialga does scare away Lost Tina and Arctina even more, which are two of your trickier matchups, and there's technology to auto win Dialga. So
absolutely,
deck's pretty broken.
The technology
deck is broken. So a lot of control hype here. We're gonna talk about some other hype decks instead of sticking around, because I know not everybody loves control in that style archetype, but it was basically the Wild Wild West at Indy, because there were so many weird decks, unorthodox decks. We had our Arc piles out there. We had the Arc Control, the Arc Armarouge, the Arc Alolan Vulpix is out there. Even one, I think that's top 16 or top 32, something like that. Yep. We had a lot of Lost piles up in the top with crazy things. We even saw, Tyler Matthews brought a deck. Shout out to you, Tyler. That was adapted from Victor Ung's list that had the Iron Crown in there. We had the Iron Valiant in there, Iron Hands, a whole lot of future stuff, which was really cool. And then we had the Shamans come into these Lost boxes for the tech against Charizard. Obviously, number one target on everybody's hit list here is Charizard EX. Then we saw something like Raging Bolt Sandy Shocks. There's some different variations of Raging Bolts too. We had Palkia Raging Bolt. I think Josh Frank also said that they played round one versus Palkia Charizard EX as a deck. So there was lots of crazy stuff. James, did you see anything that stood out to you throughout the field along the way? And you even played in the Cup the day after too, right?
I got totally sauced day one by Jank. So, yeah, I lost to Arc Armarouge Future Hands, or the Future Box with the Virizions and stuff.
Yikes.
I faced Raging Bolt both days. Like, it was full of Jank. I lost in the Cup Finals to Raging Bolt.
Yeah.
Life was tough. There was
life
a
is
lot of vials out there. People are bored of Zard and CPAV. They just want to have fun. And
that's true. And I get that. And I mean, we're at that point in the season where, people have clocked that invite. They're not necessarily stipend chasing anymore. It's definitely an environment for something like that. Shout out to you, TSS Dom, in the background editing this video here with the Raging Bolt hype. It was definitely a deck I did not expect to see for this event for sure. And I know even on your stream when I hopped in chat, we were kind of getting some sauce about Raging Bolt a little bit. And I told them that I would just take all my Raging Bolts and line my deck box with them, because that's
Raging Bulk for a reason.
Raging Bulk.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So, Dre, why don't you talk to me about any decks that you saw? Because I know that, you and I had kind of been testing some wild stuff in the B&B the night before. We even played Arctina, which Josh saw success with. Our friend Alex Shemansky also saw some success. What were you thinking going into the day? Do you think that you would have seen these? Do we think that we're going to see these in these 4 events this weekend too? Any of these crazy decks?
Yeah, I mean, when you say it's the Wild Wild West, it was like the Wild Wild West against Charizard. Like,
yes,
anything
exactly.
that anything that could it potentially slow down Charizard? Could it be annoying Charizard? Throw it in the pot. Like, that's literally what the whole weekend was. Like, I decided to play Charizard after all the testing, and like, man, did I get punished! Like, absolutely punished. I hit Tina, and then right after Tina, I go ahead and I hit Dango the Dunsparce, which I would not have thought was a bad matchup until I KO a single prizer. They do Letter of Encouragement, 3 energies out of the deck, and then they use Earthen Vessel, and they draw 1 million cards with the Dunsparce, and they get the superior energy, and they have 8 turn 2. I'm like, sick.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
and then I hit the same deck that our buddy Josh was on. I hit an Arctina with double leaves. I hit my friend Pokey. Yeah, I hit my friend Pokédubs playing Lugia.
Yeah.
Like, I hit all of my counters, and I was able to beat the Lugia and the Tina somehow. But everything else, like, I even hit a mirror that had double Meleon, and I played double Devo. And I'm like, okay, well, this is not my weekend for sure. Going forward, I think we will see a decent amount of these decks. I don't really know how Europe is going to play as far as, like, I don't think we'll see too many Sandy Shocks. I think it's kind of more of a NA NA thing, unless some of our NA buddies I know that are going over there decide to pick it up.
That's right.
But I don't expect like Sandy Shocks to be Raging Bolt to be a big thing over there. But I could definitely see like the Arctinas. There's definitely some Arc bots over there in Europe. I know a couple. So they might rock with the double leaves.
Arc Control too with the grabbers.
Arc Control, pretty strong. Had a high finish. Shout out to Makani with that one. All the Arc bots are gonna, they're in their bag right now. They're happy. They're like, yes, it's playable again.
It's time.
Can't wait to start Arc attached DTE Pass.
Yeah, one of the decks
not playable.
Notably that I saw out in the field that did okay. We did see Cloth come back. Cloth came back. Cloth Lost Zone. So you play it with Cramorants. That's another deck I saw out on the field. Now I saw somebody like James Cox pilot this in some online events, and I just chalked it up to a meme. But when I saw it out on the tables, I was like, there is no way.
Mayday 2, right?
That did make day 2 in Indy. So it was pretty, again, a vast majority of North American players love to play Pokemon in general, and they love the fun decks just like we do. Maybe taking my rogue deck section of these meta forecasts a little bit too close to heart and wanted to play something great for the event, and they did. So shout out to you if you were in Indy and you did play a off meta deck that was a little crazy. Maybe you just wanted to get your invite, or maybe you just wanted to have fun. Props to you. Shout out for all of the cool decks that you got to take to this event for sure. And hopefully, again, we'll see some randomness. I think that we'll probably see more randomization when it comes to the Lost Zone boxes in these next couple events, whether it's at LATAM or whether it's over in Europe for Stockholm's regionals. I think either way, we'll probably see some variant over there. Something else that we didn't necessarily talk about is the Espathra decks and Banette decks. I think that those are another thing too that I kind of saw. I don't think they're great. I think Charizard already knows how to beat them, but I did see quite a few of them. We even have one of our friends, Eliza. She played Lugia Espathra into the event and also did pretty well in the cup the next day too. So, Dre, going back to you, what do you think about any type of deck like this to just round out until we get to the NAIC meta? Do you think that we're going to see anything like this come out of Europe? I know there's a lot of Banette players out there too.
Especially the Banette. I think like Mateus is like the poster child for that card, right? Like he's been having like insane success online and at the tournaments in Europe.
Right.
So I would not be surprised if he just knows the Zard matchup so well in and out and just like hits enough of them, locks them out games and stuff like that. Like Banette can be annoying. The item lock can be really tricky. I don't know if they throw in some Devos in there. So like if you do get ahead of them, they can just like, okay, well, I'll just snipe your candies and then item lock you for that from there. I'm not sure how. I don't play Banette obviously, but I'm pretty sure if anybody has the math and the sauce worked out, it's Mateus. If there is Banette success, it's probably going to be coming from his side. Espathra just seems bad, man. If you're playing against somebody that probably doesn't know how to beat it, sure, you lose. Like, I mean, I played one on the ladder and I had not played it at all, and I just heard about it and like I'm like I misplayed my energies on one string. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's what Espathra does, right? It's the extra energy.
Hey, listen, if Espathra is a meme deck, Lugia is a meme deck too at this point until we get to NAIC meta. I'm sorry, Lugia lovers.
I can agree with it.
It is a meme deck, and you put the two memes together, and maybe you have a solid deck. I mean, Eliza made the argument, Cincino needs 5 energy to kill a Charizard, whereas Espathra only needs 3.
That's fair.
It's math is math. So regardless of that, James, if you were playing a Lost Box deck or if you're playing a control deck, somebody flips over a Shuppet, are you starting to shake in your boots a little bit, or are you not scared of a Banette at all?
Well, if I see a Shuppet, I'm assuming a Spathra, and that deck's a pile, so I don't care. If I'm playing Lost Box, I might care. I don't know. I feel like I just crammed that thing 3 times, and
you're chilling.
We're having a solid day. But I do think, the Banette decks existing to destroy Chimpao does seem kind of good.
Right.
But also, I don't know the Dialga versus Banette matchup too well. So.
That's another thing too. Yeah.
That's a fair.
Dialga, we don't need rare candies in
Honestly,
that deck.
the Dialga might just farm Banette. Not sure.
Fair. Very cool. And the biggest question I know is on everybody's mind. If you're going to these events, you're trying to cash out at the event, you're trying to do well. Maybe you want to pick up the best deck. We're going to talk about Charizard again, and I know maybe you can fast forward through this part if you don't want to hear about Charizard, but there's an honest question on everybody's mind what the best way to play Charizard is, and I know we kind of covered it, but now looking at this weekend, we saw Ian Robb, shout out to my boy Ian on TSS here, played the Choice Belt instead of the Prime Catcher. I know that a lot of us here on our team were on Prime because it is optimally played in Charizard.
I said Max Belt.
I know you did say Max Belt. You did say it. I will give you credit. So as far as it goes, going to you, Dre, why should I play Max Belt over a Prime Catcher? Do you think it's the wave for this weekend's events?
So going into this weekend, if I was going to Stockholm, I'd probably play Choice Belt instead of the Defiance Band to help me against like the Dialgas and stuff like that. So like I mentioned earlier, like when I was playing Zard into the Dialga, if I was able to Choice Belt Heat Tackle, I was farming, absolutely farming, because that is, what is it, 120 damage I'm doing with Amander.
Yeah.
And then I can immediately put in pressure with my Zard the next turn. Like I only have to Heat Tackle for one turn, and then I'm swinging. So I think Choice Belt's probably the better tool. But yeah, Max Belt, because of just the uptick in Chan Pao, and I don't see it going down. I think there's plenty of Chan Pao enjoyers in Europe. Like I've seen plenty online and stuff like that too. So and having the Max Belt just lets you be aggressive earlier too. Because if you're just playing the Prime Catcher versus like standard POW, you're in this kind of cat and mouse of who takes the first two prize cards. Are they going to get the Canceling Cologne Prime Catcher play for Ninja Snipe, or are you going to be able to take two single prizes with your single prizers like before they can? Like it's very difficult to maneuver that, and it kind of almost feels like really 50-50 on who just gets the better setup and takes the knockouts first. If they whiff turn two candy backs, then you probably win if you get two knockouts back to back. So the Max Belt kind of just assures that matchup. If they don't know you're playing it game one and they bench a POW because they think it's safe, because they think they have like, well, I have a couple knockouts where you can one-shot it, and you just slap a Max Belt, Arvin Max Belt, GG's, and then they have to play around at game two. They play a little bit more. They have to play a little bit more conservative, meaning there's less water coming out of their deck. They're drawing less optimally, probably because they're drawing into more waters.
Right.
And overall, it just makes their approach way slower, which is not what POW wants to do. So it helps that matchup. And I would definitely play Choice Belt just to fix my Dialga matchup a little bit, because the hype is probably going to carry over overseas.
Gotcha. And James, would you agree or disagree with what Dre was saying? Do you think that using Max Belt is the play for this weekend, or do you think going back to Prime Catcher is the primary way to play Charizard is correct?
I think Max Belt's best in Mirror, and especially if everyone's playing Max Belt, like you want to have that. Like Devo is kind of not great if everyone's playing Double Million now.
Right.
Like,
I agree.
So I think I would, like, if I'm playing POW, I'm assuming I'm Zard's playing Max Belt. Like I'm not going to just shove a POW up straight away. I think I would probably play Belt for the Zard mirrors. Something like a Hero's Cape just isn't helping me enough in the mirror match. And like Prime's okay, but like I don't want to have an unfavored match of the 23% of the room.
That's absolutely correct. I mean, I would say just alone with what you're talking about, not having double Devo and having double Melian is so much better. And then having, what Dre was saying, the Max Belt over the Defiant Belt is more effective in too many matchups. We see the list with the double Leafs too, just coming out of nowhere. If somebody starts Leaves, you can just swing into it real easy, and you're chilling, right? You're chilling against Chen Pao lists. You're chilling against an early Iron Hands too, because there's still people that are playing Future Box. Shout out to them, I guess. But it is still out there. And I think that it's just more favored overall. If I was going to play Charizard at an event this weekend, I think the most optimal way is to take basically EN60 and maybe change one or two cards and just roll with that. So now we're going to hop over to another question that I did not have here on the script, but it's a pretty easy question to answer. What do you think the top 3 decks for this weekend are going to be for all 4 events? So we're going to take over unders here on top 3. I'm assuming, assume that most of them will be Charizard number 1. But James, we'll go back to you. What do you think top 3 most played decks throughout the weekend at all 4 major events here are going to be?
So Zard and C-Power are the easy 1 and 2s, but like after that it gets really interesting. Because like Dialga seems like a super American deck.
Yes.
And also I don't know how like sure there's gonna be hype for it, but how many people are just gonna be like going to Stockholm and be like, I was gonna play Zard, but this Dialga thing's pretty good. Like I don't know how many people are gonna do that.
Right.
So like I think you could say Dialga, maybe something like an Arctina. I don't know. I'll say Dialga just for the memes.
Got it. Dre, would you agree or disagree? Top 3 throughout the weekend?
Yeah, it's going to be Zard Pow for sure. But
Gotcha.
Yeah, after that, it can definitely get really interesting. I won't be bold enough to say Dialga's number 3. Going with what I know about Europe, I kind of feel like Guardy is like an underrated unsung hero that has a lot of good matchups as long as you know the lines. Shout out to Josh, who's like knows that if you know all the lines to Guardy, Zard should be free. You should be able to just beat Pow, unless they just ninja snipe. If they get a canceling cologne playoff on you, then you're just cooked. But if they don't, which is also a very low odds play, you have plenty of ways to beat them, and you take a lot of good matchups into everything else. I'm not sure how the Dialga matchups go though either. But I don't know. Something tells me like maybe Guardy could squeak in at 3 because I know Europe loves her Guardy, but
yeah, they do.
I could see Lost Box up there too. So I don't know. I think I'm gonna be safe. Say Lost Box maybe number 3, some sort of Lost Zone. And I'd probably say Lugia 4.
Yeah, I'd put Mew VMAX up there, but
true, undefeated this weekend.
Undefeated. But yeah, I mean, I think that Lost Box probably will sneak in there if nothing else does creep up as a surprise. I honestly think that we might start to see, because I think that LatAm does play a lot of Lugia. I would not be surprised to see that sneak in there. I think that is a terrible choice, but it is a choice that people will make. You know, Zach also did very well. Shout out to you, Zach, for playing Lugia. I think that it is just not consistent enough, but people love playing the deck, right? It does do the thing some of the time, maybe most of the time.
It's funny casino deck.
It's funny casino deck, exactly.
The thing is that like everyone's appeal is like it beats Charizard. I played Charizard. Ask the homie Pokédubs, y'all. Like
that's right.
It doesn't really always beat Charizard. Like if you know that you take out the chops, don't worry about the rats.
That's right.
You win.
Right. I feel like half the time when I see the Lugia Zard matchup play out, the Lugia player just runs out of energies. Like they're just like can't kill
trying to
3 Zards.
Or I had to research turn 1 to get my deck to work type of deal.
Research 4 energies, GG.
But with that being said, we're going to kind of move on to my favorite portion of the deck, and I'm sure that everybody else's favorite portion to listen to on the Meta Forecast here. I'm going to talk about crazy decks we'd love to see do well. James, kick us off here. What crazy decks would you love to see do well, either win or top 8 an event this weekend?
Well, there's an obvious answer. Control. But after that, it would be cool to see like a Banette Enjoyer go really far because that deck's really cool. I tried to play that deck and I hurt my head, so I stopped playing that deck. But also, I mean, sure, like a Banette, a Raging Bolt. I like both those decks. I don't think either one of them are very good. But Control is going to win, trust.
Gotcha. That's fair. That's fair. There is a lot of Control players in Europe specifically, so we'll see if they pull that out here. Dre, what do you think? What do you want to see do well this weekend?
I'd like to see someone pick up the Cloth deck and take it again.
Yeah.
Anytime the crab can do well, I'm all for it. I love Cloth. That dude's so derpy, and seeing it not be dead after rotation is sick. So if I could see someone pick up that list and run it back into a day 2, would be dope.
Solid.
But I also like am a very big Mateus believer. I think Banette is gonna Banette might carry. I think Mateus is gonna carry Banette to a top 8, low key.
Solid. One I would like to see do well. I think that it might just be the time for Great Tusk Mill to come back out. I think that would be very fun. We did see some adaptations throughout, EUIC and afterwards, where we have the Dunsparce in that list. So it could be the time, if you got your CP locked up, you're ready for an invite, and you just want to take a funny little casino deck to a major and see how you do. Maybe you cash out and you've ended up signing enough slips while playing Great Tusk as a deck, and you did the thing. So I think that would be very fun to see on stream if we do get it on stream. And shout out to you if you do play it. So that's my hot take here. So that kind of wraps up our meta forecast here. And again, this is the forecast for the majors for the special event. Carolina, Puerto Rico, we have Thailand championships. We've got Stockholm regionals and Bogota special event, all again in the same weekend. So it is a super pack slammed weekend. Again, if anything here resonated with you, you can always help support the squad for more meta forecasts like this. Down below, check out the description of this video for all of our awesome links and our super cool website that just launched that has all of our amazing pros and articles and event finders now, which is a really cool feature that we just added to the site, and some really cool accessories. You don't have to buy them, but if you did, it would definitely help out the squad for sure. But I'm going to leave it to my guests again to just give their outros. So I'm going to have James tell you where you can find him, and also any shout outs you'd like to give. James, go ahead.
If you want more cringe PTCG commentary, tournament streams, bad takes, hot takes, whatever, check me out on YouTube, AllOutBlitzle, Twitter as well. Shout out to TC Evolutions for being awesome, having really good dice products, sponsoring me for some reason. And shout out for you guys for having me on here.
Loved having you. And Dre, where can the people find you, and any shout outs you want to give here?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at King Dre Clout with the one instead of the L. Find me on Metafy. I'm opening up my coaching a little bit more. I actually think I'm going to open up a sequencing masterclass here pretty soon too. So find me on metafy.gg/King Dre Clout. And of course, shout out to the Shuffle Squad, best squad out there. Shout out to all the homies on the team. TSS win. Shout out to Candace always. And that's it for me.
Sick. And if you do want to get a little bit better at Pokemon, there's 2 ways that you can do it. One is you can find all of the Shuffle Squad over on Metafy for the pro team. You can check out all of our master classes as well. And then you can also check out our Patreon, where you can get articles. If you subscribe, you could talk to the squad in our private super secret TSS Discord as part of that Patreon deal as well. But I'm PJ here as always, but we will catch you next time here on the Shuffle Squad.
Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.